Hi, Miss Syed here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some financial aid information when it comes to determining how much students and families pay for college. The first thing I want to talk about is cost of attendance. How is cost of attendance determined? The factors that go into a cost of attendance for a university is one, tuition and fees. That is generally a fixed cost or a direct cost. Room and board, so housing and meals is another way that you would see this. That could be a flexible cost because housing, the type of housing, could affect how much that particular type of housing costs. Meals, you pick a specific meal plan, right? So that could be sort of flexible. So room and board and tuition and fees are direct costs because they are paid directly to the institution, right? So those two are part of cost of attendance. Transportation is a part of cost of attendance. Books and supplies, and miscellaneous living expenses. The transportation, books and supplies, and miscellaneous living expenses are all indirect costs because they're not paid directly to the university and they can fluctuate based on the student. You may not need, a lot of money for transportation if you are commuting to school because you don't need plane tickets, right? So it depends. Living expenses also depends on the type of standard of living that you have or what you might need. Some people might need a laptop. Some people might need, certain living uh, related sort of items that could cost more or cost less, right? So all of those things a college takes into account and comes up with something called a cost of attendance. So once you have a cost of attendance, once you know how much a school is charging you to attend their institution, how do you figure out if you are eligible for financial aid and how is that eligibility determined? What happens is the college takes into account, once you fill out your FAFSA, it takes into account their cost of attendance, and then from FAFSA, they get something called an estimated family contribution, which is essentially what FAFSA, the federal government, is saying that you can pay out of pocket an X amount of money, which is your EFC, based on the information you provided in FAFSA. So they take that at EFC and they deduct it from the cost of attendance. And they figure out then what your financial need is. So a few examples here. If college A the cost of attendance is $10,000 and your EFC is $3,000, your financial need is $7,000, right? College B is $20,000, your EFC is $3,000, your financial need ends up being $17,000. College C is $35,000 in cost of attendance. Your EFC is $3,000. Financial need is $32,000. So what you can see from from these examples is that your EFC doesn't change. Whatever FAFSA determines is your EFC, that EFC applies to every single university that you would apply to. Net price calculators. A lot of times students will reach out and say, well, Miss Syed, how do I figure out how much a college is going to cost me? Is it going to cost me the cost of attendance, or based on scholarships and grants, is it going to be less? So recently, a few years ago, colleges are now required to have something called a net price calculator on their website. This calculator gives prospective students the opportunity to calculate what it would cost them to attend that university based on some basic financial data. We have recorded a video, net price calculators, and posted it on our YouTube channel to walk you through one net price calculator, just to kind of give people an idea of how that works. Every school does the net price calculator a little bit differently, but we really highly recommend that students do the net price calculator as a junior, to kind of figure out, based on their basic financial situation, how much a college would cost, and if that college is a college that a student can afford and therefore should apply to. Net price calculators are only an estimate and they don't take into account outside scholarships. They may not take into account new scholarships that the colleges may be offering next year. So it is an estimate, but definitely a great tool and highly, highly recommended by our counseling department to definitely use. Some scholarship resources. We've outlined some basic scholarship terms. just so everyone's on the same page about what everything means. A need-based award takes into the student's financial situation. A merit-based scholarship is more based on your grades, test scores. Another one I'd like to highlight on this is the renewable versus one-time award. There are scholarships that will only give students $5,000 one time for their 4 years in that college or that university. There's some schools that will give, or some scholarships that will give renewable awards, which means that every year you will get the $5,000 award that you got the first time around. So in essence, you've gotten $20,000 in scholarship over 4 years. Academic Works, huge for our CPS district. It is a CPS run and managed scholarship database. There's couple hundred, if not more, scholarships on there that are vetted for CPS students. Every CPS student is eligible to create an account and should create an account. And what that does is it will ask some general information. It's a general application for Academic Works. You put in some general information. Your counselor will attach either a letter of recommendation if needed or a transcript, and that will allow students to then apply directly through Academic Works to some of those scholarships, and also give you a list of scholarships that will apply to that student. So it's a really, really great resource. The first resource that we recommend all students turn to when it comes to the scholarship search. There are lots of other places where students can find scholarships as well. There's an email blast that CPS sends out that when you go into Academic Works, it'll actually have the student subscribed or send an email to that specific email for CPS scholarships, and CPS will then send that student scholarship information as it comes through. There's a Jones Scholarship Guide that is also available. There's scholarship books. Of course, you can always meet with your school counselor to talk about scholarships. And then on the right side, there are tons of different scholarship sites that we recommend that students can use to find scholarships. If you need any support or any help at all when it comes to scholarships, please reach out to your counselor. That's all I have for this piece of financial aid. Please make sure you follow up with your counselor if you have any questions. Thanks for listening.